because you're going to spend so much of your time waiting for him to hurt. A hurt that he's not going to feel, a hurt that he's not going to understand, a hurt that's only going to hurt you because you're going to miss out on your healing. Some of you right now are waiting and watching and hoping and praying that he gets his due, that you get your justice, that you get your vengeance, that you get your revenge, that it happens. And all of a sudden you see his life blow up with the next supply. But while you're sitting there waiting and watching and looking at this guy, waiting for his karma to happen, you know the biggest thing that's not happening? Your healing. In fact, everything is slowing to a stop. Because you're spending so much time obsessed about this guy, you're not spending any time focused on you, any time focused on your growth, any time focused on your healing. Are you stuck in that right now? Are you stuck in the emotional pain of waiting and hoping and praying and looking and thinking, while all the time everything that's happening is the moments, the time, the energy is slipping by, and you aren't the one that's healing? In fact, if anything, you feel like you're the one that's stuck in quicksand. You feel like you're the one that's emotionally numb, not able to move forward, not able to heal because you're looking to him. Do you see this? See, what happens for a lot of people is when they wait and they're looking for the narcissist to get his karma, to get his due, to get justice, when they're waiting and hoping and praying and thinking that they have to have that in order to heal, they don't. Because you play into his same trap and you still become the victim. Because the victim means you're still stuck waiting on him to do something in order for you to heal. You're still being controlled by him. Waiting for the karma, waiting for him to get what he's due, you're still being controlled by him over and over and over again. How does that feel? Like, do you see this, how it actually impacts you? There's a lot of pain that gets wrapped up in this. A lot of pain that you feel like you can't let go of, that you can't heal from, that you can't move forward from. And that pain leaves you stopped up. Sometimes we call it emotionally constipated because everything gets shoved inside so much you're not able to actually think. You're not able to actually process. This might produce a big level of guilt and shame. This might be a piece that won't even let you move forward. Might be a piece that leaves you just trapped. Do you see how you can actually be out of a toxic relationship? You can actually be away from this guy and still be trapped because you're waiting for him to get his karma. But as a result, you get nothing because you don't heal. You don't move forward. You just feel more levels of shame and guilt and frustration simply because you're not ever able moving forward. You're still stuck. Been in that spot for so long, I feel so trapped. Lisa, a lot of people feel trapped inside of it. You're not alone. You feel trapped? Tell me a little bit more. Why? Like when you hear this piece and when you feel this piece, what's the biggest piece right now that has you feeling trapped? Drop it in the chat. Because if you're not careful, this piece will leave you stuck mentally and emotionally, waiting for something to change, waiting for there to be a difference, waiting for him to get his karma. It doesn't happen. The only thing that happens is you lose on your healing. You lose in the healing process. How many of you are in this place? You're waiting for him to get the karma. This emotional pit that you get in. The emotional pit is like, I can't heal this part of me unless he does this. That just means you're staying in victimhood. That just means you're staying in a place where someone is in control and in charge of you. You're not in control of your emotions. You're not in control of your feelings. You're not in control of your healing. That I feel like I'm not good enough. I've lost so many years. Lisa, you have lost a lot of years. That doesn't mean that it has anything to do with your worth or your value. It means he didn't have any appreciation for who you are. He didn't have an appreciation for your worth and your value. In fact, all you did was you ended up turning this over to him. That's the hard part. You end up moving this over to a place where you gave him your worth and your value. You said, you define me. He doesn't define you. You're letting him in the moment, but he doesn't define you. You define you by your actions, by your willingness to move forward, by your willingness just to be here and to engage, right? That is a defining moment for you to show up and actually start to question and talk through and think through different things versus him being like, yeah, you're stupid. You're not good enough. Don't let a toxic guy that's even no longer in your life still define you, still play out this emotional roller coaster in your head. Why? Because he's still stuck in there. Many people that are in a toxic relationship feel like they're not good enough. And that's because you've been trained and subconsciously programmed through the trauma bond to not feel that way, because he didn't want to let you feel like you were good enough, because then you'd realize you were too good for him. He knew that you were good enough. He wasn't good enough, which is why he had to keep lowering you. Belittling, gaslighting, lying, cheating, making you feel shameful, making you feel guilty, projecting, all of these things to bring you down so he felt better about himself. This is why we have to help you rewire the thought process. Rewire the mindset, rewire what's actually going on, the subconscious programming. We do this by working on first the triggers. Because if we don't start lowering the triggers that are happening in your life, nothing's going to shift, nothing's going to happen. If we don't deal with the triggers first, everything is going to continue to mess with you. You're still going to get activated when you hear a song. You're still going to get activated when you drive by a certain place, all of these different pieces. The triggers are what we have to focus on first, because the triggers are saying that there's an area underneath the surface that's still there to heal. It means there's something there that still needs to be worked on, right? So there's the only reason that this piece of not feeling good enough triggers you is because inside you believe it. Inside, he's made you believe and think that maybe you're not good enough. That's the belief that we have to help you switch and change. Because if we don't switch and change that, you could go into a healthy relationship and you still wouldn't feel good enough. Because it's subconscious programming. It's something that's underneath the surface. So working through this process, I teach this inside of our challenges called the Freedom Formula, which is meant and guided to help people shift and grow and develop who they are. It's meant to be able to shift the story that you're telling yourself, to be able to look at what's the trigger that I'm facing, what's the feelings, what's the emotions that are associated with it, what is the subconscious programming, what's the piece that's actually underneath the surface. That's what is going to leave you stuck until we compare it to the facts. The facts of you being worth it, you being good enough, the facts of how he treated you, the facts of how he shamed you, the facts of how he guilted you, the facts of how he belittled you, looking at all of these and understanding that it was him that didn't feel good enough, and that's why he had to project it on you. That's why he had to put it on you. That's why he had to mirror it back to you to try to make you feel like you weren't good enough, when in reality, he's the one that was lacking. Think of it this way. One simple rewrite inside that piece of not feeling good enough. Regardless of how he treated me, I define my own worth. Like, regardless of what he did, I define my own worth. That's the biggest piece inside of this. You define who you are. You define your growth, your development. He doesn't get to define that anymore. This is what we do inside of Raw Motivations. It's working you through what's the trigger, what's the emotion, what's the feeling, what's the subconscious programming, helping you rewire it, because that's the only way to get rid of the triggers. It's the only way to eradicate the trauma bond. That's the only way to make sure that you actually find freedom for you. You might be at the place where you're stuck. You don't need to watch any more content. You just need clarity in your situation. That's what I want to offer. You can go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. You can leave a comment once this is posted and say the word breakthrough underneath, and I'll send you a link. An opportunity for us to sit down and have a call, figure out a step-by-step process to actually rebuild you, define who you are again. That's what we want to be able to help you see and understand and feel. If you resonate with this, if this is part of you, if you see yourself inside of this situation, understand that there's a step-by-step path and guide to actually have you be free, mentally, emotionally, long-term. You ruined my life, left me with a child knowing I have no real family to help. He did it on purpose. He studied me and my childhood trauma and told me no one loved me when he left us. Yeah. He's going to use your vulnerability and the things that have triggered you in the past to still poke the knife in further. These will be pieces that will stick with you for a long period of time until you learn how to release them, how to be able to rewire them, because otherwise he will start to program into you doubts and fears and worries. This is how narcissists will keep you in the fog, the fear, the obligation, the guilt that will leave you trapped. I help women actually break through the fog consistently and permanently so you can see with clarity, with confidence, and make decisions with certainty. If you're stuck in the fog, dealing with your relationship, toxicity, dealing with the manipulation, please reach out. Go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. We'd love to be able to help you build a plan for you. You can schedule a free call there. We can sit down and have a conversation of what's going on, where you're at, where you want to go, and how to help you move, grow, and develop for you. If you're stuck in the healing process, he's still living in your head. You're still thinking, when's he going to get his due? When's he going to get his karma? If you're stuck inside of this and you're not sure how to emotionally release it, then this message is for you. Go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. We'd love to be able to help you move forward in the healing process. And you could do that by filing a free call. First, jumping on a call and seeing where you're at and building a plan for your freedom. Y'all have a blessed and wonderful night. I'm going to jump off. We got date night coming up. So y'all have a great evening.